Ken, whenever you're ready.
Oh, he's unmuted now.
Whenever you're ready, Ken.
Back on. Great.
You're back in. Good.
Okay, are we recording, Crystal?
Yes.
Blackwell, are we recording?
Yes, you're recording.
Okay. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole. The date is March the 4th, Tuesday, and the time is 8:01. And with that, we'll call the meeting to order. And we are going to rearrange the agenda for this meeting. We'll hold the closed portion of the meeting after the open portion. So with that, I'll move to adopt the agenda with the variation of the closed to follow the open portion. Any other amendments?
Could I just make a brief announcement at the beginning? And is it possible to add just a brief update under reports? I think if there's anything at all on the Botany Creek update, the status in terms of where we are, and also a Lions Bay Beach Park update, just very brief. I'm looking for less than a minute on each of those, just to make these are significant matters, and I think we should check in
if I could.
Okay.
I would prefer not to discuss Botany Creek at this point, without getting into detail. Progress is happening with regard to the cleanup, but I would prefer not to talk about it.
Okay, I'll respect that and remove that request. Could we have just a 32 seconds to a minute on the Lions Bay Beach Park?
Okay, any other amendments to the agenda?
And an announcement, if I could do that very soon, that'd be great.
Okay, all in favor of the agenda as amended?
Just for the record, the beach park, I would suggest needs to go under section 14 under new business.
That's fine.
Okay. All right, all in favor of the amended agenda?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, with that, we'll move right to now I noticed we don't have public input on this. That's questions and answers, or questions, comments at the end. Did we want to put that?
You have it as number 5?
We do, sorry, it's under number 5. So we'll move to public participation. Norma Rogers has her hand up. Please unmute, Norma.
Hi. The proposed amendments to Section 7 of Garbage Bylaw 639 disrespects our Bear Smart community status and would lead to increased wildlife interaction, which is a safety issue. Leaving out recycling overnight will attract wildlife because many residents do not clean their jars or containers. Reverting to a 5 a.m. roadside placement time for garbage and food waste exposes wildlife attractants for many more hours. When the village allowed 5 a.m. placement 20 years ago, we routinely experienced garbage-strewn roads, bears aggressively guarding this food source and being killed as a result. During the process to attain Bear Smart community status, the village amended the pickup time to 7:30 a.m. to follow provincial recommendations. The village introduced staggered pickup times in 2023 to further reduce the time attractants are accessible to wildlife. Any member of council who supports reverting to this outdated bylaw wording will be on the record as anti-Bear Smart with the Village and Conservation Officer Service. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? No, okay, with that, we'll move to item number 7, approval of the minutes of the prior meeting.
Mr. Mayor.
And that would be October 15th, 2024. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
Pardon me, Mr. Mayor, could I just
Yeah,
think about,
Councillor Broughton.
I think it would probably fit well in terms of public participation more than anything else. I just wanted to make mention of the fact that the David and Barbara Enns celebration of life is this Saturday in Broughton Hall from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And I'm aware at this point that there will be representatives from fire rescue and SAR and presumably also from ESS who did an outstanding response and also ongoing work to do with the Botany Creek slide and the loss of David and Barbara Enns. Also, I'd like to recognize the ongoing work of our Chief Emergency Officer, Mr. Blackwell. So, but just wanted to make mention for the community that, as noted in the village update and elsewhere, that the celebration of life for David and Barbara Enns, who've lived in the village for 5 decades, will be this Saturday.
Okay, thank you very much for that announcement, Councillor Broughton. Okay, with that, we'll move for the approval of the October 15th, 2024 Committee of the Whole minutes. Do we have a motion for that?
Sure.
Okay, second. All right,
Second.
any questions, comments? No, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, we'll move for the approval of the November 6th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes. And do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
questions and comments?
Ready.
Councillor Abbott?
Page 8, 5A staff reports. I think there's some in the bullet points about this discussion about vehicles. I think there's some things that are maybe inaccurate or not worded very well, but that's okay because it says discussion ensued on and it could have been what people said. But I think the action, to my mind, was not what we asked for. The action reads, Judge Urquhart, Financial Officer, determine the feasibility of designating one vehicle for the fire rescue service and the works department. I don't believe that was the action, that they were going to share a vehicle.
No,
And if it was, yeah, I'm looking at 2 people and I don't think that's the case. Have we pursued this action anyway is another question, but I think it's minuted inaccurately. I think the question was, someone suggested bylaw enforcement and fire services.
I
Yes.
support that, yeah.
To the chair,
Okay,
yes, this has been discussed by council and Chief Germside spoke to this and said, no, he's very clear that a vehicle designated for the purpose of fire rescue needs to be available for fire rescue full time. So that sort of shared scenario would not work for fire rescue.
Yeah, but I don't think it was a suggestion that is the workshop. My only other thought was, there was a suggestion again about sharing the fork truck when fire rescue needs it. Is that what it was meant to say? I think that's the other possibilities. There's 2 possibilities here, but as it's written, is not a suggestion.
well, we can strike that from the record, or we can go back and review the tape. What do you suggest, Mr. Blackwell?
Thank you. Staff will circle back on this and review the tape and update the language to ensure it accurately reflects if this language doesn't.
Okay, so we won't call a question on this. We'll move to the next. Okay. Right. All right, I'll move to December 3rd, 2024 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Yes,
Second,
yes,
questions, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
yes,
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, the January 7th, 2025 Committee of the Whole minutes. Motion to approve.
Yes.
Second,
second,
questions, comments? Okay, all in
Question.
favor?
Aye.
yes,
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, the minutes for February 4th, 2025 Committee of the Whole. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
second,
questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
yes,
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, business rising from minutes. None, okay, unfinished business action log, any questions? That action log is on page 22, any questions?
yeah, I do.
Okay, Councillor Abbott,
Item 321. Which is ongoing. So Ross, this is about us getting the 100% rural grants. I don't know if you have any further feedback, but just for your information, in our meeting with the MLA, he offered to help with this. So we have some support there. But I guess the first point is getting your feedback, and you said you'd received something you're going to share with us, but we haven't seen it yet.
Oh, yeah, I never, if I could, through the
yeah,
chair.
Mr. Blackwell,
Thank you. I don't recall that. If I said that, I don't recall. So I need to circle back. And investigate that. What I do recall is that this was an item that was on my to-do list and I didn't foresee having time to address anytime soon. That's all I remember as the status.
Okay.
That's not to say I didn't get a letter, but I don't recall it. I'll have to check my emails.
You mentioned something about, I think David Metro was confused. I think you spoke to Metro about this or something.
Oh, yes.
Metro, and they'd said, well, there's other grants and you can't get, but that's confusing the issue. So I wasn't sure if that was a letter or something you can share with us, or just a conversation, but either way, the MLA is on board with this. So yeah, I think we should push it.
Pursue it. Great.
Okay.
all right, any other items, Councillor Abbott?
Next one, number 326. Why is that still ongoing? I think that's behind us.
If I could,
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell,
this reflects a letter that came from the ministry, the minister. And council will recall the UPCM discussion, this also came up. And council, the request was that, that request of the ministry be satisfied. And the request was that council provide that update. Council's not yet done that, so it's an outstanding item.
Did we not do that in the meeting the night before the meeting?
No. So what I could do is, if I get the direction from council, draft something for circulation to council and give it to you as council to work through it and wordsmith it to reflect council's wishes, or council can appoint somebody or work together as a group.
Ross, I think the letter specifically asked council to authorize the release of the provincial advisors report from August 31st, 2023, and also asked council to adopt the recommendations from that report. And the letter asked for an update on that, and they had requested an update. We have not updated them. I believe that's the outstanding matter. Yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
Clarification, the request from the ministry, as I understand it, was that council set out how it is incorporating the recommendations set out in the provincial advisors report. What steps are council taking effectively with regard to implementing those items that were set out in that letter? And I didn't get the sense that they were looking for a detailed line by line sort of thing. It's possible that I didn't get that. It was more of generally what's council doing, sort of response.
Councillor Broughton, you had your hand up?
Actually, Councillor Cunliffe did first.
Oh, apologies, Councillor Cunliffe, and then we'll go to Councillor Broughton.
This matter, we had to table when we had our last discussion with Lidstone. He has some details to go over in regards to this. The meeting with the minister was simply, and we provided that information to her at the time, that was the steps that we were in the process of following. So I would say it is still somewhat ongoing until we can have Lidstone come back, because our last meeting with him ran significantly longer than intended, so he has a report to address with us.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah,
Councillor Broughton?
Okay, I think we're confusing different issues here. I think we're talking about the provincial advisor's recommendations, which went into closed. And the ministry is asking what we're doing to deal with the provincial advisor's recommendations. And it's a bit awkward when council has chosen to keep those in closed. So, I think probably the best thing here would be to have them not enclosed so they can be discussed. I think we're confusing two issues, and I think that's problematic.
Okay, Councillor Cunliffe?
yeah, if I may, I had extensive conversations with Don Lidstone, and he has a report. We were provided him with the recommendations from the provincial advisor, and he was going through that and was going to sit with council and outline the recommendations and clarify exactly what they mean to us as a council. So we are all in a seat where we're comfortable releasing them then and adhering to them. But that was the point, because there was some discourse amongst council over their comfort with the recommendations and how they may be viewed. So we were basically waiting to be educated, and Don has that report ready to go over with us. We just did not get to it when we met last in a month or so back.
Okay, I'll just comment. I think we are confusing the matter. There's two different matters. One is the release of the provincial report, and the second is adhering to the recommendations of the provincial advisor. I have had the provincial advisor comment that there's nothing in that report which is confidential, and in fact, he sees no reason to release that. So with that, I'll propose a motion that we release the provincial report from August 31st, 2023. I'll make that motion. Do we have a second?
Sorry, Ken, I've had my hand up from the beginning. Everyone's spoken.
Sorry, I've just put a motion on the floor. Do we have a second for that?
If I could, you cannot make a motion on a matter that's already been defeated by council, and this motion has already been defeated by council.
Several times. Can I make a comment?
Okay. All right, well. Councillor Abbott?
My comment is that Councillor Cunliffe is correct, and that was my point why I thought this was dead. Thought the ministry wanted to know we were dealing with it, and all we need to tell them is how we were dealing with it. That's why I thought it was dead. Councillor Cunliffe is correct. That's what we chose to do, and we have to wait for Lidstone to get back to us.
Okay, I'll just comment, since you put something on the record that you say is correct. I have the complete opposite opinion of that. They have asked for a response in writing from us. We have not provided it, so I think it's due that council needs to address that matter. So, okay, it's on the to-do list. Any other comments?
I will follow up with Don and see his availability to present that report to us, so then we can release the advisor's recommendations in open.
But to be clear, that's a separate report from the provincial advisor.
It's a separate report, but it is based solely on the report from the provincial advisor.
It's a review of the provincial advisor's report.
Yes.
Could just point of information
Yeah.
here,
Councillor Broughton.
The provincial advisor was with our community from May to August 31st of 2023, coming up on 18 months ago. And the fact that this report has not yet been released, I'm finding extraordinary. So for just a point of observation, he provided the report, he recommended at the time it be released. Council in its wisdom chose to not release it and put it into closed and is continuing to keep it there. And I don't think that serves the community.
Sorry if I could
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
be clear. This action item is not to do directly with the release or the non-release of the report. This action item is specific to a request from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. That's all this is. Nothing else, nothing more than that, nothing less than that.
Okay, any other items, Councillor Abbott, before we move on?
I have one more. The next item on the list, 328. Maybe, Ross, it might be easier if we, or might help if we knew which actual meeting this happened in. It says it happened on December the 3rd, but it reads that provide council with working documentation of council duties, tasks, responsibilities, and status. I have no recollection as directing you to do that.
Okay, I think I recall what that is, and that is to do with staff has asked council to hand in a strategic plan and their thoughts, and they've asked each councillor to respond to that, and I believe that we have not had all the councillors respond, and also in regards to staff review, still have not received all the responses from councillors. Mr. Blackwell, any further comments?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I would say that I remember this resolution, and this was your resolution. And actually, I'm pointing my head to the wrong direction this way. The request was that I provide an itemized list of all the outstanding items that have been requested of council, so that it could be contained all in one place, I guess, for ease or efficiency, etc. So that's what this was.
Okay, so it's not council duties.
No.
Okay.
Okay, any other items, Councillor Abbott?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay,
I do have one.
yeah, Councillor Cunliffe.
So tonight we have again in front of us, a bylaw that we had asked staff to provide us with the implications and costs of having 2 garbage trucks and more multiple collection days to avoid staggered times. I don't believe we received that information, and we have the exact bylaw that was presented to us previously with no material change to make any sort of different decision that happened a couple of meetings ago. So I'm kind of curious if we actually looked into that information.
Mr. Blackwell?
Thank you. Yes, we have. I'm not sure if staff are in a position to be able, if the information is definitive at this point or not. But that work has been completed or is largely completed. So staff are in the room. Yeah, so yeah, that has been completed.
Okay, thank you. Any other items? No? Okay, we'll move to item number 10, reports, the CAO report, resident satisfaction survey. Mr. Blackwell?
So this is a pretty standard undertaking on the part of municipalities for the purpose of sort of this checking in with the community to see where the community's feeling is with regard to service delivery. For example, how's the municipality doing with snow clearing, or the condition of the roads, and et cetera, et cetera. So what it does is it gives a bit of a snapshot of the temperature in the community around the various aspects of service delivery. And then staff are able to take that and consider that, factor that into their operational plans in terms of prioritization, And council can also use that as inputs to the budgeting process where it can benefit from seeing where the priorities are for the community on any given service delivery issue. So that's sort of the proposal. It would, I could run with that, but I would prefer to have some endorsement from council.
May I place a comment?
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
I have some comments on the actual proposal as well, but before we go there, or probably reason not to go there, I'd like to remind council that the last time we had a by-election, we stopped doing several things. One of them was we even cancelled Volunteer Appreciation Day for fear we get too politicized during a by-election. Is this really the time to be doing this document during a by-election? I would argue not. I think we should certainly leave this until the end of the by-election. And based on that suggestion, I'll keep my other more detailed comments to myself for now, but I'd like to throw that out there first.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Cunliffe?
I would tend to agree that this seems like you could be providing just a platform for campaigning that could complicate what is most likely going to be a complicated by-election if the past is revisited. So I think staying hands off anything that could be potentially contentious, like your suggestion that we get a third-party electoral officer was a great one. So I think that this is a good idea in principle. I just don't think that the timing is really ideal.
Okay, any other comments?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, Councillor Broughton?
Mayor. Yeah, I think that I totally support the concept. I think the timing may be challenging, but I certainly support it and would see it going ahead, as appropriate. So I think, we could, are we being asked for a motion? Are we being asked for consent? I'm sorry.
Mr. Blackwell, you're not looking for a motion, are you?
Well, it would be good to sort of get an endorsement from council. I just wanted to note that when this report, so this was on a previous agenda, council didn't have the chance to get to it. Things have changed since then. So I completely agree. Timing is important. So I would, this is gonna take a while to flesh out anyway, so it may be something that if council says, you know what, yeah, let's work toward launching something. Then the next question is roughly when would that be? September, October? So that can be worked out later, but sort of getting council's view on, yes, is this something we'd like to explore further, spend some time on it, we'll work on it over the next few months, we'll tweak it and get the questions just where we want them, because this is not just for staff. These questions also have to reflect sort of the priorities for council with regard to information gathering, so the council is in a better, stronger position around budgeting and so forth. So if there's a desire to move it forward, then I would ask for just a simply resolution to provide direction to staff to progress this concept and come back with more details for the launch of satisfaction survey to closer toward the end of the year or the fourth quarter, or however you want to say it.
So moved.
A second.
Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Sorry, I was opposed to being reworked. I thought it should come back to us first, but
Okay, motion's carried. I think the intent is that staff will work on this and come back to council before launching. Okay, next item is 10.2, and that is the proposed public engagement program. Mr. Blackwell, over to you.
Thank you. This is just an idea for council consideration. This is something I've done in other communities. What this is intended to do is what I would refer to as community empowerment initiative insofar as it would normally bring in targeted key speakers on various issues that have some effect or relationship with livability of communities. So topics like aging in place, what are the considerations for aging in place? These sorts of topics. In part because there's going to be a need to update the OCP in the next few years, and starting to sort of bring information toward the community for the community to sort of digest over time and discuss and wrestle with will set the community up, I think, better for an OCP discussion. But that's best done in advance. So this is sort of an idea, again, that I'm kicking the tires on, seeking direction from council. There's nothing definitive per se. There would need to be a concept developed, more specific details developed that would be brought back for council's consideration. But it's intended to be a venue to stimulate dialogue and discussion in the community.
Okay, any comments?
Yes.
Councillor Broughton?
Yeah, I would support this with the same comment that applied to the previous discussion, actually, in terms of timing and that type of concern. But it is a longer term kind of commitment, and I think it'll be probably an outstanding thing to do once we have a full council again. So
Okay, any further comments?
To be clear, I don't foresee having any time to jump on this in the next few months anyway. So at best, it would be with all the stars aligning, not until toward the end of the year.
Okay, in concept, I agree with it, but again, timing probably isn't the best. Do we want to just take this for information then, Mr. Blackwell?
Well, ideally, I'd like to know where this lands for council, if council's hot or cold.
Okay, other councillors, Cunliffe and Councillor Abbott?
I'd like to suggest that before we flesh this out any further, we'll go back and look at some of the previous surveys and resident input on these kind of topics that have happened in the past. Because I think there's some valuable information there. And likewise, I think obviously the timing, this is not a good time to do it.
No, as I say, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Cunliffe?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea and spirit, and so when staff does have time, it's definitely something to put some effort into, some work into, so yeah, green light.
Okay, we'll, do we have a motion for this then, subject to launch?
To be clear,
same wording as the previous one, I think.
yeah, if I could, through you.
Yeah.
I'm not seeking to launch anything. If this would be simply giving me the sort of direction to proceed with developing some sort of concept to bring back to council later in 2025 for massaging and figuring out the details and so forth as a community engagement exercise.
Okay, do we have a motion for this?
So moved.
Yeah.
Second? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed?
Yeah, I would.
Motion carried. Okay, Councillor Abbott opposed, motion carries. Okay, resolutions, there is none. We'll move to the bylaw. Do we have a motion that the bylaw be adopted as amendments, removing the increased wildlife collection schedule? Do we have a motion?
If I might suggest, why this is before council now is because this was discussed in a previous council meeting. Council ran out of time. And there was not a definitive outcome because of that. So we've brought it back as a result for further discussion. Our bylaw enforcement officer is here and can sort of set the stage, sort of remind council sort of what this is about, why this is, where his recommendations come from, and new information, further to Councillor Cunliffe's question about garbage trucks. Yeah, he can do that, and council can consider that before making any sort of recommendation.
Okay, Taj, we'll call you to the floor, please.
Can I just ask through you a question to the CAO? If we're in a committee of the whole, we're not in a position to be making any decisions on this.
Whatever decision you Through the chair,
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
whatever, if council is minded to make some sort of resolution, the resolution would go forward to council.
Okay. but it's not-
Recommendation.
Yeah, recommendation, yeah, okay, just wanted to.
Okay, Taj, we'll invite you to the floor, please.
Yeah, so I just wanted to begin with bringing up some new information. One of them was speaking with the supervisor with Waste Control Services. I was able to have some conversation with him before. I was instructed by him that no one besides the Public Works Manager or the CEO be in contact with him. But what the information I did get from him is that when it comes to adding a truck, there's a few things to consider. One of them is that it's not just about adding one truck for garbage collection. He mentioned the bigger issue sometimes is the food or green waste, which goes in its own truck as well. Something I want to add is council wanting to add essentially 2 trucks to the route at that point. And when it comes to the numbers, I don't have I was not able to get the numbers from Waste Control Services. But do keep in mind that it's not just an addition of 1 truck, it would be an addition of 2 trucks. And another thing that was brought forward from the supervisor was that it seems like it's not very feasible for them to be adding this truck because their employees need 8 hours of work. And by doing so is cutting their hours in half, which is putting a big wrench in their routes and how they are allocating their work. So that's what I got from the supervisor from Waste Control Services. And then I also met with the conservation officer just last week. And he was hesitant to put anything in writing or give any recommendation on this topic. And it seems it's because they don't want any fallback or backlash in the case that they give a certain recommendation and it's not effective. Some information he provided me was that that bear-resistant garbage bins aren't as great as everyone thinks. In Squamish, everyone has bear-resistant garbage bins, but what they've noticed is that these bears just adapt to them, and they adapt to the point where they are able to open up the clamps on the sides of the garbage bins, which defeats the entire purpose. And the other thing that they mentioned was in regards to the garbage bins, it's not necessarily when it comes to garbage collection and putting your garbage bin out, the garbage bin is really no longer bear resistant because when you put your garbage out for collection, you're taking off any sort of bear resistant hardware. And so I think everyone having bear resistant garbage bins, it doesn't have as big of an impact on the garbage collection schedule as council might think it does. And the cost of bear resistant garbage bins, that's a cost, that's a large cost that that council needs to consider if it's worth adopting like Squamish does. And that's the new information that we've gotten on hand. Outside of that, I just wanted to open up discussion for this amendment. Again, I wanted to touch on the Office of Ombudsperson being in contact with Ross and bringing up the concern of the unfairness of the garbage collection schedule as it affects some neighbors differently than other neighbors. And then, yeah, I just wanted to open it up for discussion again and hopefully get to some sort of resolution as to what, how council wants to proceed with the garbage collection and having an unclear, difference between the increased and normal wildlife activity.
Okay, thank you very much, Taj. Any questions for Taj? Sorry, any hands up? Councillor Abbott?
Yeah, I could make a few comments, I guess. I think my opinions are known, so I was hoping someone else would talk a bit, but your comments about the resistant bins not working, it's well known in the Bay Smart communities. They refer to them as meals on wheels. We have examples in our village of the ones from outside this office a few years ago, where your predecessor thought that some resident had stolen the bin and taken it in the forest, and I pointed out it was a bear, and he basically opened it off. So they are problematic. The only effective way of keeping bears safe and reducing any potential for any conflicts with bears, if you like to use that term, I don't, but is to reduce the time at the curb and to store appropriately between pickup times. And this bylaw is all about reducing the time at the curb. It's been very successful. We've got many organizations, seeing us as the poster child for being Bay Smart by being able to do this and put it in place. I also just wanted to comment, council having the email boxes a freedom of information request that was submitted by a member of the Bay Smart committee. It was in the mailboxes earlier today, I think. Was it yesterday? That was yesterday. Yesterday on the weekend, about the number of complaints. And that freedom of information request points out that it is a very small number, as in 3, and the same 3 people. So the suggestion that there's a variety of number of complaints is not accurate. There's more actual supporting emails that came without being solicited than there are complaints. So the rest of council have read that and they've got a better understanding what it's about. And the final comment at the end of that letter was a statement that we probably shouldn't have needed a freedom of information request, but I guess maybe there's some personal information that forced it to be that way. But it wasn't an intention to create work for staff because they are busy with other things. So I'd just like to make those comments. I'd like to hear other people's thoughts about other comments.
Mr. Blackwell, you've got your hand up.
Just a slight reflection point with regard to the comments received. Some of the comments are received at the front counter. Some of the comments are received directly to the bylaw enforcement officer. So in terms of what was provided through the freedom of information request is only a small snapshot of the number. It's not the whole community, don't get me wrong, but the number is larger than what that FOI sets out.
And I think if I could just comment on that, the largest number of the comments at the front desk that go to staff is questions about the pickup times. And we did try to have an education session with staff to explain it all to them. That meeting turned out to be something else. The mayor joined us and ended up being another meeting. So I think a lot of it is just inquiries as well, not necessarily complaints. Anyway, let's just leave that where it is for now. I think there's a large support in the community for this. I personally have started working in the city for the last month and I leave before 7:30, and I've been taking my garbage down to the workshop and it works just great. And if we actually went away with curbside collection, I wouldn't be bothered at all, to be honest. It's really not that inconvenient in my opinion. But anyway, I'll leave it at
Okay,
that.
any other councillors? Okay, Councillor Broughton.
I have to support staff in this matter. They're on the ground, dealing with the matter on a daily basis. As pointed out, there's 12 Bear Smart communities, and we are the one anomaly. the ombudsman has indicated that there's an unfairness here. What I'm having some real difficulty with is the threat versus cooperation aspect of this matter and the divisiveness of this matter. And to have the chair of the Bear Smart Committee come online this evening and say that anyone, and I didn't get the exact quote, but any councillor who supports this motion will be considered anti-bear or Bear Smart by the members of the community, and went on to expand beyond that. I have real difficulty with threats when there is a difference of opinion, and personal attack when there's a difference of opinion. I am profoundly supportive of Bear Smart and have been for consistently. However, I may not agree in every aspect with the current Bear Smart Committee. And that appears to be a dangerous thing to be in this community. And that is wrong. That is profoundly wrong. So if, you know, this, I believe it's the third time the chair of the Bear Smart Committee has made similar comments. And I think they are totally unnecessary and very detrimental. And the fact is that I support the staff in this motion. Perhaps there's some tweaking in terms of times and so on, but there is a significant impact on some members of the community who are very hesitant to raise it because they are then become targeted. And the letter that I did read appeared to be quite targeted at specific individuals, which I found completely inappropriate. So, you know, I think it's two different ways of looking at the world. One is that you have to beat people up, and the other is that you seek their cooperation. And I believe that this community, I believe that the effectiveness of Bear Smart has been through the willingness of people to cooperate, the education, the fine work that's been done. But we've stepped to a point where if we don't have cooperation, and if you don't agree, and if you don't share an opinion of a particular aspect, then you are subject to any councillor who supports this motion will be considered anti-Bear Smart, and so on. I mean, 2 meetings ago, there was a presentation regarding a freedom of information, apparently done by a member outside the community, as indicated by my colleague here, that called on a letter that I sent to the conservation people in August of, I believe, 2023, and which I would be delighted to provide to anyone who would like to read the letter, because I believe the letter was completely misrepresented in this chamber. And rather than take it on, I chose to take the high road on this. But this is getting to a point where it's abusive to our community and it's unacceptable. And I support this. I support this motion because I support the staff and I support the issues and the fine work that's been done. And I just heard the bylaw enforcement officer indicate that our garbage contractor indicated that there were only 2 people he would be prepared to talk to. And my thought would be that that's probably because the waste collection service was told to phone, the community was told to call the waste collection service if their garbage was picked up outside of their 2-hour collection zone. So, you know, I just think it's time to you know, respect the community and seek the community's cooperation. And I believe with that, you'll continue to have incredible support. And I believe you will always have some outliers, and to make it an enforcement model as a result of a few outliers who I question whether you're going to impact anyway is wrong.
All right.
And it's destructive to our community.
Just a point-
Councillor Broughton, thanks for those comments. Mr. Blackwell?
Thank you. Just a point of clarification for the record. To be clear, the ombudsperson's office has not made any sort of conclusion at this point. It's an investigation. There has been a complaint about reasonableness and fairness of the bylaw as written. So the ombudsperson's office is monitoring the progress at council. I have to report back tomorrow on this to the ombudsperson's office. Whatever happens. And once they have whatever information it is that they're seeking, they will do whatever they do following that. I'm not entirely sure what they're gonna do.
Okay, Councillor Cunliffe, any final comments?
Yeah, I'll stay brief. All the information that Taj has just relayed to us seems to me to actually support why we wouldn't be putting our garbage out any earlier than the designated times. The Bear Meals on Wheels or whatever, the bear-proof containers don't work. Having the conservation officers not willing to make any kind of recommendation, probably because they would also know that the more exposure on the curbside, the more risk of any wildlife getting in. And I am not supportive of this at all. And clearly the waste people don't have the staffing, nor are they looking to accommodate us. And 2 extra trucks every time seems like a huge expense that I'm not sure that residents would be supportive of. So
If I could.
Okay.
just-
Mr. Blackwell?
Thank you. As I understand it, the Conservation Officer Service was disinclined to provide anything formal because they are aware of how sensitive this issue is in the village of Lions Bay. And they did not want to stand in the middle of a bullet, so to speak. Would that be accurate?
That's correct.
Okay, I'll just further comment to Councillor Broughton's comments. And basically, I think, you know, we have to respect different opinions. I don't think this should be something where residents or those in opposition are subject to personal attacks or shaming. So I think that we've got to be respectful of our fellow citizens, and I certainly value our bylaw and staff's recommendation, and I will be supporting this. Okay, Mr. Blackwell, do we need a motion on this, or is this just a recommendation? What's required?
Now, Councillor Abbott, wanting to make a comment.
Thank you. May I speak?
Councillor Abbott?
Just a couple of things from what I'm hearing going on here. I really don't believe this is any need to be as divisive as people are describing it as, and I don't believe it is. Certainly not to that extent. Yes, there are a few vociferous people, and there are some people that are going to be very defensive of PetSmart. Conservation Office Service have known about this all along through previous conservation officers that we worked with. They thought it was a good idea. I think they've always thought it was a good idea. But they don't want to get into the middle of telling us how to write our bylaws. This council have never asked for this bylaw to come and be revised. So, you know, to the point that the CEO has made many times, staff don't get to ask bylaws to get revised. They get to ask council to give them some direction. So I don't even think it should even have got to this point. I think if there's anything that's creating this problem is this confusion when people don't know the time slots or get them wrong or believe it's or can't work out the seasonality. If there's anything we need to do is we can just take that equation out, and that's what we should have done, and just made these time zones year round, because there's a very small window of the year where there's no potential for bears of being out. And it's not just about bears, it's about all wildlife that get into these containers. We have issues with raccoons and other animals that do the same thing. So I would suggest that this bylaw is left as it is. The reason we did the winter seasonal thing was to give bylaw some flexibility, to be reasonable, and you know, to look at kind of some circumstance, give them some flexibility. I know that doesn't necessarily work for bylaw. But that's what we did. That's the previous bylaw officers asked us for. And maybe we should have just made it year round, and that would be at this point. Like I said, I think I said this.
Okay, I think we're probably covering information that we've already given out. Any further new ideas,
I could just provide a point
Mr.
of
Blackwell?
further to Councillor Abbott's comments about bylaws being brought forward for consideration. I need to be clear, that is the job of your professional staff, is to bring forward proposed amendments when they see deficiencies. That's what you're supposed to rely on your professional staff to do. And then if council is so minded, it can entertain that. If it's not so minded, it can choose to do something different. But you have to be able to rely on your staff.
I just think a report of the discussion rather than a change to a bylaw is where we should have started. Rather than being given a change bylaw, here, please approve this. A report of the discussion is where we should have started.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Broughton?
Well, I just don't see this as any different than the other bylaw changes that were brought this evening. I mean, it's a moot point in terms of the discussion. But anyway, I am very supportive of Bear Smart. I'm very supportive of the absolute retention of many bears as we possibly can. But I'm also realistic about the fact that there can be issues, and I've been incredibly impressed by the professionalism of the COS people, and their love of animals and their last resort treatment, or dispatching of destroying of bears. And anyway, and I believe that they should be supported, and I don't believe that we should be personally attacking one another for changes of opinion, for difference of opinion. I've believe we need to be hard on issues and soft on people, and I believe that will make our community a much kinder place to live and more effective place to live.
Okay. The motion on the table is that the bylaw be adopted as amendments, removing the increased wildlife collection schedule as proposed by the bylaw officer and staff. Do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Well, if I could.
Do we have a second?
If I could, through the chair. That language I would suggest be tweaked, because it doesn't make sense in my mind as it's written, unless I'm reading it incorrectly. And I would suggest if council wanted to make any recommendation to council with yourself at a regular council meeting, it would be that the bylaw be adopted by, well, that the bylaw be revised by removing the increased wildlife collection schedule.
Okay, do we have a motion for that? As proposed? Okay, second. All right, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion defeated. Okay, we'll move to correspondence. There is none, new business, none, and we'll move right to public. Oh, sorry, I've missed one item, and that was the amendment of the agenda, the Lions Bay update. Mr. Blackwell, if you'll provide us with a brief update as proposed in the amendment.
If I could just point out that Councillor Broughton had his hand up before I go there.
Yeah, Councillor Broughton.
Well, just having voted in having supported this motion, I'm just I will go back and check the record and see what I can expect in terms of the being declared anti-Bear Smart and who that will be reported to. And I find that
I think
completely
we're off topic, point of
int-
order.
int-
That's
intolerable.
unnecessary statement. We've covered this now repeatedly.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell, if you'll move on to the Lions Bay update, please.
Sure, yeah, so with regard to the beach park project, as council is aware, council has had an opportunity now to work one-on-one with a design team that was comprised of Nick Bray Architecture and Yuri with Euro House, to sort of fine tune ideas, sort of test ideas, explore different options, et cetera, et cetera. So I was not privy to that, so I'm not entirely sure the details of or the fine strokes associated with that, but my understanding is that he has taken that information away and is going to come back with a revised design that's reflective of council's priorities. And that'll be before council when it's ready with the budget associated with that, because now Euro House will have something specific that it can measure against. And that will be before council for consideration.
Okay,
Oh.
thank you for that. Any questions for Mr. Blackwell?
Just one other piece following that, should that go as smoothly as that, we would then sort of start moving the project toward a probably end of September start date, so that would be involving communications with the community as time gets closer and all of the normal logistics associated with that.
Okay, any questions, Councillor Cunliffe?
Are we speaking to the agenda item here?
Oh, that was amended
New
at
business.
under new business. Just a question, when we expect that final design and budget to come from,
Did you say when?
When?
yeah, like,
Through the chair?
Mr. Blackwell?
To Councillor Cunliffe, I don't know at this point. Council
I
met
thought
with
they sort
them.
of talked 2 to 3 weeks.
yeah, they
went out,
indicated like
and-
kind of, so
and that
maybe
was-
for for the 18th.
Hopefully something for the.
I can tell you that, you know, I'm sure you know this because you've worked with them now one-on-one. Their team sort of understands the sort of urgency, they understand the priorities, they understand the significance, et cetera, so,
I got that sense. Yeah.
okay, good.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Well, just,
Councillor Broughton?
I appreciated the opportunity. We had a very good meeting, very frank meeting, and the key issues that I believe came up in the January 15th presentation regarding location and the watercraft storage and things like that, I think are going to be worked out quite well. So I'm looking forward to seeing his next presentation. I think it's something he really wants to be proud of and do a really fine job on. And I believe that'll be the case.
Okay, any other questions, comments? No, okay, with that, we'll move to public questions, comments. Anyone online? Like to comment or have a question?
Okay.
Okay, I don't see any hands.
No one in the chamber that has a hand up either.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Blackwell.
So if I could,
Yes,
you're not adjourning, just as a reminder, you're gonna be,
Going into close.
yeah, I need a motion to move into closed, please.
okay, a motion to move into closed, second,
Second.
all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you very much for the public.
Thank you.
You make a full minute, please.
Yeah, appreciate it.